By the way, I've been away for 3 weeks, and in Hong Kong, I have given, but there's no question here as to what happened to you when you were away, but I'm sure some people would say, what happened to you? Do you want to say something about during your absence, what did you do in Hong Kong? Usually I commute between Hong Kong and Canada. I gave a lecture on the Heart Sutra in Cantonese, which I haven't given before. I spent 6 days in it, every day talking about for 2.5 hours, 6 days. And then I put another 2 days to it for 8 days. I've been counting those days. 8 days I gave lectures. And giving lectures like that for 2.5 hours is not just go there without preparation. Although we've been talking about Buddhism for a long time, but we still have to prepare. There's a saying in the Chinese language, whatever you see on stage for 1 minute, people on stage have been practicing for 1 year. So, you know what I mean? Maybe you see someone performing on the TV and you thought, oh, that's just a minute. They could have take 1, take 2, take 10, they could have spent, a few hours on it. So even we've been talking for a long time on the Buddhist teaching, we still have to prepare for it. And for every morning I went into the computer and actually look at all the PowerPoint and all that. So very, very busy for 8 days. And then for 3 days, I went to release of sea animals, of fish in the Guangdong province, Sunde. We went to a private fish swamp, a huge acreage of tank, and we took all the fish out and released them back to the freshwater, huge lake. So that's what we've been doing. And then we also went to tree planting ceremony for a new temple. So I occupy all my days for the 20 days, and here I am back again. But I have to go again sometime in June. I met something unusual in my last trip. There was a man, 23 years old. He graduated from Cambridge, a law degree. He apprenticed as a lawyer for 1 year, so he became a lawyer, actually a lawyer. And then he returned back, he went back to University of Hong Kong for a master's degree in law. A brilliant student, summa cum laude, first class honors in law in Cambridge. Cambridge is a very famous university in England, Cambridge and Oxford. So he graduated and he spent his final year in this master's degree at Hong Kong University, and somehow one morning he went up to the 5th floor and jumped down. Landed, boom, 5th floor, and jumped down. The spine hit the ground, broken spine. 23, 24 years old, and raised up by single mom, the only son. So the mom had been doing hard work to raise her son, and now her son, broken spine, rushed to emergency to a hospital, and a few doctors went to see him, check him out. They are of the common idea, the common opinion that even an operation has to be performed within 2 days. Otherwise, he'll be dead. And even after the operation is performed, he will be paralyzed for the rest of his life because the nerves were severed in a lot of places. And no hope for survival to be a normal person. Will be sleeping on bed for the rest of his life. So I heard about that story and from his classmate, and I really was quite sad about it. Of course, his mom would be grief-stricken, and the man said he wanted to die immediately, and the mom didn't know what to do. So after I listened to this, we immediately chant for him. We chant the Siddhikapa Sutra, 6 of us in our lecture hall in Hong Kong. And I personally went to pray for him in front of Siddhikapa Bodhisattva, praising for him to recover. So and then next day we have to rush next day to China for the release of sea fish. And then when I came back, his classmate told me he had a miracle. What happened? A few doctors tried to clean up all the broken bones and all that. And he was not paralyzed. He could feel toes moving. The toes were moving. And the doctor said if the toes were moving, he had a chance that he would be normally walking with up to 5 or 6 months. So we were all very surprised. And he was actually moving, but he couldn't control his bowel movement yet. So I went to visit him in the hospital, and a lot of legal students were by the bedside, it's his classmates, and they were so happy because it was a miracle. How come the doctor said that he's not going to survive? You know, he will be paralyzed for the rest of his life. The doctor said, I didn't know. We don't know. According to the scan, according to everything, all the information, he wouldn't survive a normal life. He survived when I went to visit him in the hospital and talked to him. And he seemed okay. The only thing he worried about is his bowel movement. He said he hadn't had any bowel movement, and he was worrying that for the rest of his life, he may not be able to control his bowel movement. But I said, you have your life back. And it was already a miracle. Spiritually, and I would say, the Siddhagarbha Bodhisattva must have saved him. Non-spiritually, I don't know, it could be a coincidence, I don't know, but all these doctors said he's not going to survive. But how come the miracle worked out? So I gave him all my lectures, and I told him about Siddhagarbha Sutra. And he told me that his mom, every year, usually go to the temple of Siddhagarbha right in the beginning of the street where he lived to say prayers every year. So there must be some relationship. So I prayed for him too. So we were quite happy for him, and he looked very happy because a miracle came to him. So chant your Siddhagarbha Sutra. Miracle could come to you. We don't know. There's so many things that we cannot explain. So let's go into the questions now. What books or lectures would you recommend for people just beginning? There are so many books, so many lectures on YouTube. If you really want, on YouTube I have so many lectures. Many, maybe 100 of them, so many of them. Anybody have access my lectures on YouTube yet? So I have a lot of lectures. All the lectures that I produce in here, that I produce in there is on YouTube. Yeah?
We'd rather listen to you in person.
Oh, in person, yes. More intimate, close relationship. Close up is a little better, yeah. But there are a lot of good lectures on the YouTube, and not just my lectures. Take a look at Ajahn Brahm's lectures, an excellent lecturer of Buddhism, more experienced than me, actually, in giving lectures. Another one, another monk educated in Sri Lanka by Bhatan Punnaji. Excellent lectures. He has a PhD in psychology and in philosophy. Is 85 years old, and excellent lectures. And listen to these two monks' lectures, and you get a lot from them. But the more important is not just listening to knowledge that you acquire outside. Reflect within. Practice. Practice what you preach. It's easy to say words, but practice what you preach. You don't have to listen to a lot. You listen to some, you get the main idea, and you start to practice it. So there's a lot of books for beginners. Next question. What is karma, and does it transfer to your next life? Of course it does. It will transfer to your next life. And it has been transferred from the previous lives too. All this karmic energy. What is karma? An accumulation of your volitional action and speeches and thoughts. Every thought produces energy. Every thought produces karma, not just action. That's karmic because you have that thought in you that taints your consciousness, that pollutes your consciousness. Does it transfer from your next life? It's going to transfer to your next life, and it's been passed from your previous life to this life. Whatever you encounter, you experience in this life, is a result of the karmic energy you built from your previous life, whatever you encounter in this life. So in this life, how come I was born in a poor family? How come John was born with a gold key he was born in a multi-million dollar home. And I was born in a dilapidated Coca-Cola cane roof house with a lot of heaps of garbage surrounding me. And why? Isn't God unfair to me? If there's really a God, God wouldn't be unfair, would he? Think about this. If there's really a God, would God put me in a situation like this and put him into a situation better than me? No, if that is a God, he would have put you in the best position, if that is a God, quote unquote God. The God is nowhere to be found. The God is in you. That God in you, you have to review it. You don't have to find it anywhere else. Don't look for a God outside. Oh God, help me God. No. Look for it inside. It's in you. Everybody has that God. When the time comes, it will give you what you want. Is that God in your flesh and blood? That God is in your mind. And because of that God is in your mind is never away, it's not apart from your body, that God is also in your body. Because that God is actually in your mind. And that God is polluted now by you. You have to clear all the pollutants. And one of the many methods to clear your pollutants is by meditation. So many ways to clear your pollutants, but you haven't been interested in it. You're not interested in it until maybe lately, when you suffer, when you find out more wide about things, when you find out more about inequalities of life, when you have a divorce, or when I don't know, when something happened to you that is not pleasurable, and you cannot find pleasures anywhere else, you're looking for something spiritual. You come to a temple, you look for it. Don't have to look for it. I tell you, it's in you. Discover that. That treasure in you. Whatever you experience now is what you have done in your previous life. Don't blame anybody for it. Don't blame your parents for it. Your parents is only a contributing factor to you being born. Because they come together in a location where an ovary and the semen match together and produces you. Don't say, how come you bring me to this world? I'm so ugly. I'm ugly and you bring me to this world. You should be responsible. They didn't bring you to this world. They do that kind of thing and you mix into that kind of thing and you come to the world. They won't say, I want John, then I do this kind of thing. They didn't even have John, the name John happened to them when you're doing that kind of thing, right? When they're having a fusion, they don't say, I have a fusion to get John. John comes to that fusion because of karmic energy that pull you to that fusion. I can go on with karma, but that's it. Because it's a subject that is so involved. There's so much to talk about it. There is reproductive karma. There is unchangeable karma. There's changeable karma. There's immediate karma. And karma, of course, is involved with 4 aspects. The cause of the karma, the performance of the karma, the intention of the karma, and the finality of the karma. So we can talk about, get onto YouTube, karma. It tells you a lot. Nowadays, you can get a lot of education from YouTube. Utilize it to your benefit. What is the school of Buddhism here at this temple? There's so many schools in the Buddhist teaching. When the Buddha was teaching, he didn't say, this is this school. This is my second school of thought. This is my third, fourth, 5. The Buddha never differentiate, never tell you what school of thought. It's the later generations, because the Buddha talked about so many things that the later generation, the later philosophers and practitioners, they try to research and analyze it and break it down into school. This is the school of the Tantric school. This is the meditation school. This is the Tiantai school. This is the Pure Land school. So it's the human mind that discriminates and finds out all these schools. The Buddhist teaching is one. The Buddhist teaching does not say, I have so many schools for you. Which one do you want? why did the later philosophers or practitioners try to divide it into school? Because everyone's karma is different. Everyone's conditional causation is different. You may like certain school and he may dislike certain school. So it depends on what school that fits your circumstances and your knowledge, your education. For people who are highly educated and they like psychology and philosophy, they may like the consciousness only school, which is not about in school, studying the consciousness of human. So it depends on what schools that you like. The school in this temple, if you really want me to say what school, maybe it's a combination of meditation, Zen, and chanting. A very common school. But I tell you, meditation and chanting also includes tantric school, because we're chanting mantra. So it's a combination, actually. Next question. If a negative thought arises, is it best to let it pass through and investigate where it came from or block it out? If a negative thought arises, you can let it pass. If you have the ability, a negative thought comes and you let it pass immediately, instantly, then you don't need to investigate where it comes from, because you have that ability to let it pass. If you do not have that ability to let it pass, you still hang on to that negative thought until you really have to spend time to it. Then you have to analyze it. The second method, if it doesn't immediately pass along without attaching to it, then you really have to look at it. You look at that negative thought. Where it comes from? Oh, it comes from my greediness. It comes from my desire for sensual pleasure. It comes from my ego feeling. Then you analyze it. Once you analyze it, you want to discard it. You think it is garbage. It is garbage to me. I'm gonna garbage it. Then if you really need work to work at it, then you can investigate it if it's a negative thought. But in the investigation, make sure that you don't fall into the trap of, oh, it's a negative thought. Maybe I should pursue that negative thought after investigation. Then you're not investigating it from the good side. You are trying to investigate, but you perpetuate that negative thought. First thought comes, it runs into the second thought, then you're not letting it through. When the first thought comes, you let it flow through, then it doesn't go into the second thought. It has no continuation. If there's a continuation, then you analyze it and say, I want to discard it. It's a negative thought. It's a thought of selfishness. It's a thought of anger, a thought of jealousy, a thought of hatred. You just let it go. If you can let it go, you're not an average individual. Maybe one out of thousands of individuals that they let thought pass by them, negative thought. They analyze the thought and don't let the negative thought influence them. That means you are pretty well in control. The more instant you are in letting it wash through without hanging to it, the more intelligent, the more wisdom you have. It depends on you. By definition, you let it pass, how can you block it out? If you have blocked it out, it won't pass to you. So blocking it out, that means letting it pass. Well, you can scold at that thought. That's the method I use. Say when I'm walking or thinking, all of a sudden that negative thought comes to me, I scold at it. Initially, I just spit at it. Too. Really. That's one way of showing it. That negative thought comes to my mind, I spit at it. Of course, that's not the right way to do. Don't spit on the street. And as time goes on, you don't need to spit it out. It just comes out from you. But you really have to try to get it out. Sometimes you hang on to it, you attach to it without you knowing it, and you carry on. You perpetuate that negative thought until the thought gets into volitional action. There's so many negative thoughts. You have a choice whether you want to continue the negative thought to carry into action or you want to let it pass. The choice is in you. And most people didn't make the right choice. That's why they kill, they steal, they lie, they get angry, they're uncontrollable, they have anxiety, they have depression, they have hatred. That's why you are egoistic, because you cannot control it. Use your right hemisphere. Use your right hemisphere to control your left. And surprisingly, don't try to blame your left hemisphere. Your left hemisphere is very powerful. One of the powers that the left hemisphere has is to weave out stories that this one may not weave out stories. You imagine a lot of stories. That's the reason why there's so many novels written, because you can create a lot of stories from here. And if you touch your head, you want to see, am I spiritual? Sometimes you know. You touch your head, sometimes you know. Okay, next question. Why can't we remember our past lives? Whatever in the past, sometimes you remember and sometimes you don't. If it's in the recent past, usually you remember. But if it's in the remote past, you may not remember. Can you remember events when you were 3 years old? Anybody who can remember events happened when you were 5 years old? Raise your hands. 5 years old? How about 3 years old? Can you remember what happened to you 3 years old? Even 3 years old? Oh, you have good memory. Can you remember events happened to you when you're 2 years old? Difficult. How about when you were 1 year old? No, none. So you can't even remember events that happened to you 1 year old. How could you remember events that happened to you in your previous lives? You can't even remember when you were 1 year old. And you expect yourself to be so intelligent that you remember things happen in your last life? Isn't that impractical? You bit your own tongue. You say it, but you bit your own tongue. Because you can't simply remember. But I can tell you something. When you were 60 years old or 50 years old, of course you can't remember 1 year old. What happened to you when you were 5 year old, 3 year old? You may have a chance that you still remember your previous lives because it's so fresh to you. That's the reason why we heard stories about a 5 year old boy. Dad, I was born in Hamilton. He was in the state, in New York. I was born in Canada, in Toronto. And you're not my dad. And my dad is in Toronto. They would get so scared. Or do you have a problem with your mind, your brain? So they took the boy to a physiotherapy. But actually, that boy remembered previous lives. And that have so many stories. Get those stories in the YouTubes. Boys or girls who remember previous life. Usually, there's not very many stories about old men and women remembering previous lives. Usually young boys, maybe even teenagers who remember previous lives because it was so fresh in their memory. And even that, if every time a 4 or 5 year old mentioned to his parents about previous life that the parents didn't believe or too fearful to believe, then the parents usually say, shut up and don't say that to me again. So he's always getting this negative response in telling stories about the previous life. He got scared. In his subconscious, he didn't want to say it again. So he's been stifled. No parent would say, hey, come on, give more information. What happened to you in the previous life? Well, you were in Toronto. What street? What street in Toronto? Oh, Floyd Street? Oh, that's in Lansdowne Plaza? Oh, they won't go that. They won't go like that. They won't investigate unless they are scholars. Take a look at studies by Ian Stevenson, the scholar who studied previous life cases. He had thousands of those cases. He spent 30 years to study rebirths. He studied cases, especially in Asia. He performed all his clinical researches in Asia about past life experiences of people. Last question. What is consciousness in the context of Buddhist teaching? That takes 5 semesters. Maybe 5 courses in each semester, studying the 8 consciousnesses, the I consciousnesses, ears, alai consciousness, manu consciousness, manas consciousnesses. There's a special study of consciousness. If you translate in direct English, it's consciousness only school. In the Sanskrit language, is Vijnana Matrata. Study of the consciousness. Vijnana Matrata. So, When I said 5 semesters, it may be too short. People spend his lifetime in studying the consciousness. There's a special school called Mere Consciousness School of the Buddhist teaching. So many literature about it. So much English literature about it. The Western culture is very interested in the study of consciousness because of psychology. So you research into that school, Vijnanamatrata school. And people who study that is called Vijnanavadin. Okay. Next question. Can bad karma be prevented from being ripened? Even if it can be prevented from becoming ripened in this lifetime, it will become into fruition in many future lives to come. It depends on what you do in this lifetime. If you have some really bad karma, the effects of which you will realize in this lifetime, bad karma. But in this lifetime, you've done so much good karma that the good karma matures first. It's more energetic, more forceful. You may delay the coming of the bad karma. It's just like when I have a ball and there's another guy there receiving my ball. If I throw this ball to that guy, the force of that ball would get there. But if there is something in the middle that pushes it, punches it at it, then the ball will be redirected to another direction, or maybe stop, that he won't receive it. It depends on the forces, conditional arising, that may delay the bad karma. Or that may even divert the bad karma. Or that may even, it's like clothes that you wear. You have, all these clothes are dirty, and you bleach it out slowly. Then you can purify your bad karma. If the karma is really bad, you cannot purify it. But for ordinary karma that is not extremely bad, you may be able to purify it. So there's some sayings in the Chinese literature that when a person passed away, he does not have to go through the bottle stage for 2 kinds of people. Some people, when they passed away, they immediately will be reborn. If they haven't got nirvana, they will be reborn in heaven. Those people, they practice good, extremely good karma. They stay away from killing, from lying. They will perform the best deeds in their whole life. Then when they die, they don't have to go through the bottle stage. They will go immediately to heaven for those really good karma. The really bad karma, when that person passes away, he immediately go down to inferno. He doesn't have to go through the bottle stage. They're going extreme. For that kind of karma, it's difficult to erase. And karma also depends on intention. If you want to kill an animal, for example, and kill a cat, for example, you kill it accidentally. You're driving a car and a cat will rush by and you killed it. You committed killing. But you didn't have any intention of killing it. You didn't prepare for killing it. It's finally been killed, yes, you got that karma. But the karma is not forceful because you don't have intention, you don't have preparation. It has a lot of legal implication in it. And actually, if you look at from the legality side, a person has no intention of killing, hasn't prepared for the killing, and finally they kill that person, he may not be standing the same trial as person who have intention and who prepare to kill them. So it's very logical and very legal, legally speaking. But if you kill that cat, on the other hand, you prepare for it. That cat belongs to your neighbor. And every morning that cat is producing a lot of terrible noises. I dislike that cat. That cat is terrible. So you prepare to kill him. You started to buy poisons. You research into what kind of poisons would poison a cat. And then you prepare, you wrap it up, and you throw it over the fence so that the cat can eat it. You prepare for it, and you have the intention of killing it, and the cat poison and die. That kind of karma is very strong because you have intention to prepare for it. As compared to you don't have intention, you don't have preparation for it, but you actually killed it. So you're talking about changing your karma, depends on what kind. Watch your thought. Be careful with your thought. You should nurture only compassionate thought in your mind.